everybody. It's Meherwan Irani, Spicewalla at Chai Time, 4 o'clock. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Chai Pani mom at the helm there.
Hi, everybody.
And another beautiful cup of chai. Look at that sucker. Mint
Yum.
and ginger. Well, thanks for joining. Doing a midweek little situation here, and we're gonna make one of Chai Pani's most iconic dishes, probably our gateway dish to Indian street food, probably one of the most famous things. Chef Michael Simon's cooked it with me. Ali Khan on Cheap Beats has cooked it with me. I mean, I think this sandwich has been around the world and back. We call it the sloppy jai, but really what it is Kheema Pav. And keema is a ground spicy lamb hash that the Parsis love. I'm pretty sure we bought this dish or some variation of the dish with us from Iran. And when we arrived in India, I don't know, about 10th century, give or take. And it's become a pretty popular dish found all over India. So because this is COVID, I couldn't find buns, so we're not gonna do the sandwich version of it, but I'm gonna make the keema the way it's originally made in India, which is just the ground lamb hash, and then we're gonna enjoy it with whatever we want. So let's get started. I got some oil going in the pan over here, and I'm gonna get it hot. And guess where this oil came from? Remember a few days ago we did the pakoras on Sunday? Well, all that oil from the pakoras was actually beautifully flavored with all the onions and all the vegetables that I've been cooking in the oil, and we only cooked it once. So I strained it, saved it, and we're using it again, keeping it in a clear glass jar for a couple of days, and you actually have some fantastic onion flavored oil that's just gonna add even more flavor to this dish. Don't throw stuff away that you don't have to. You can always reuse oil. If you've only used it once, strain it, save it. It probably has great flavor in it, especially if you've been cooking just with onions and vegetables. So how do we know if the oil is hot enough? Well, we start with some cumin seeds and see if they're wiggling. So we give it the wiggle test. Minimal wiggling, waiting for the maximum wiggling. So to cook this dish, we're gonna make a very traditional masala first. And I know people think of masala as an Indian spice powder. We also have wet masalas, which are essentially our version of a mirepoix, but instead of celery and onions and carrots, we make the Indian mirepoix with onions, ginger, garlic, and sometimes cilantro. But before I start that, I want to get the oil seasoned and flavored with some cumin seeds. So I'm waiting for these bad boys to sizzle. I think we're going good. Everybody's been asking me for measurements, so I'm going to do my best. Let's start with a teaspoon of cumin seeds. There, and you can see wigglage is happening.
Much wigglage.
Much wigglage is happening. You know what I wanted to put in there, which I like a lot in keema? Let's go to the old appliance garage, is some peppercorns. I don't have just black peppercorn. I have a medley, but I'm gonna put a few in. For those of you that don't like whole peppercorns, you don't have to do it. I like whole peppercorns. Voila, whole peppercorns.
I pull out the whole peppercorns at the end.
I'm gonna also put in what I call whole garam masala. So let's put in a few cardamom pods, and you can pick these out from the keema at some point, but they're gonna flavor the oil and add all this phenomenal flavor to the oil.
Let's see what you're doing over there.
I'm in the spice store, you know, the
Spice
spice cave. I think let's just do that right now for the keema. We don't, if I had some cinnamon stick, I might put it in there too, but you know, we're cooking with what we have, so I think this is fantastic. All right, what goes in next? This is the magic. Ginger garlic paste. So this provides that foundation for almost all Indian cuisine that's absolutely amazing. I mean, I can't even tell you what this is to food. It's gold. And all it is, very simple, it's 50-50 ginger and garlic.
Someone's asking about the pan.
Blend it together.
What kind of pan is this?
This is a Staub pan. Staub is just a phenomenal company. They were kind enough to give me a couple of pans to cook with. Some of my favorite pans.
It's like a cast iron with an enamel coating.
It's a cast iron pan, enamel coating on the outside, beautifully seasoned on the inside. So I put about 2 healthy tablespoons of ginger garlic paste in here. And the reason we blend ginger and garlic together, well, first of all, is peeled ginger and peeled garlic equal amounts. So if you took a handful of each and threw them in a blender together, you got ginger garlic paste. Pure it really well. You want a puree, you don't want chunks. You want it to be smooth. And the ginger and garlic together don't burn. They caramelize. They actually get a Maillard effect. And I don't know how many times you've cooked with garlic, I know I have, I threw it in and I burnt the garlic. But when you blend the garlic up and puree it with the ginger this way, it doesn't burn. You can actually roast it till it's golden brown and get a beautiful Maillard effect going.
Can you state again what we're making
We're making keema.
for people that joined late?
You guys are gonna have to go after the story's posted to see what I'm making if you join midstream, because I have to explain it probably a dozen times.
10 times.
But I'm happy to do it. We're making keema, aka the sloppy Chai, Chai Pani's most famous dish, and keema, the Parsi's most famous contribution to Indian cuisine. And it goes with everything. So I'm really excited about this dish today. All right. So my ginger has got a little bit of brown on
James
it.
Grogan is messing with you. He wants to know what you did first. James Grogan is one of the original Chai Pani chefs, for those of you that don't
he's
know.
been at Spicewalla for so long, he's forgotten all his recipes.
You have to teach him all
The
over
man's burning
again.
toast every day. I heard he burnt water 2 days ago. Yeah, he's having a rough transition back into COVID life and cooking at home. Okay, next up, good people, onions. So I've got about 2
We
cups
have a
of onions
giggly
in here.
teenager in the background.
I've got about
She's about to get filmed if she doesn't watch out.
I got 2 cups of onions in here, and I'm going to put about that much.
Oh, tuck tuck. We have harassment going on.
Uh-oh, hey Sam, how you doing?
Hi,
Love
Sam.
you, miss you. Making keema, enjoy it when you can.
She wants to see Rosie.
Oh, we'll bring Rosie out here in a second, but look at this fluffiness.
Yeah,
this
look
is
at this
like
afro,
Rosie.
you guys. This is, yeah.
I'm going full Rona, baby, full Rona. Letting my hair out, letting the beard grow, not shaving anymore. I'm not gussing this up for the TV.
Nope.
Let's put it this way.
We miss you too, Sam. Come back and visit soon as we all emerge from this.
Onions are in. You're gonna add a little bit of salt so that the onions can sweat. And we're halfway through building our wet masala. I'm gonna add a little bit more oil to this. Onions need a little bit of oil to really get going.
How much did you put originally?
I mean, I'd probably put, all said and done, for about this much. It may end up being about a 1/4 cup of oil. I know it sounds like a lot, but you really need the onions to not sweat, but caramelize. They got brown, and you need oil to do that. You can always strain the oil off once the lamb's cooked, and if there's a little too much excess oil. Lamb is gonna add oil to the keema, but you don't have to cook with lamb. You can do this with ground turkey, you can do this with ground chicken, you can do it with ground beef. I mean, any kind of ground meat, get it on.
Uh-oh, we have a throwdown.
What's the
Sam
throwdown?
might win this haircut challenge. Her mom is not going to make you hoppers until you clean the mop up on your head.
Well, Vish has offered to do a challenge to, if I get my hair cut on Instagram Live in front of a live audience,
Oh no,
he will host a fundraising dinner.
I'm so scared.
So this is going to be pretty epic.
Oh, we have a teenager volunteer hairdresser from the other room chiming in.
Onions are caramelizing, and let's take a look at what the rest of our spices are going to be.
Look at that beautiful straw pan. Gorgeous.
Everything from now on is going to be a powder. So here's the trick, folks. When cooking Indian food, when cooking with spices, doesn't matter if it's Indian food or not, if I had started this dish with powders, which is what a lot of people think they're supposed to do with spices, this powders would have burnt, and by the time I finished my 30-minute cooking process, they would have just literally just added nothing to the dish, except for possibly being overcooked and overburnt. So in this initial stage, when you're frying and cooking and sweating onions down, put whole spices in. Because those whole spices are flavoring the medium in which you're cooking, whether it's the oil or the water if you're doing some sort of stew. And that's what we're doing here. And that's why I only start with whole cumin, whole black peppercorn, and whole cardamom. So it's adding flavor to the oil, and we can pick those whole spices out. It's really easy to do. We're gonna add the ground spices at the end of the cooking process, because these have already released their flavor. You know, they're ground, and they're gonna basically put the finishing punch on the dish as we get close to the end. So don't start frying stuff and this with powdered spices. If for some reason you don't have the whole spices for this dish, you can skip the whole spices. You're still better off just making the onions and frying your ginger and your garlic, and then adding your ground spices closer, to the end in the later part of the cooking process, as I will demonstrate. All right. that's cooking. So I like doing some interesting things with my masala. What I like doing is actually putting cilantro in both early and late. So when I put cilantro in early, and in case you're wondering why it's in a rag, wash your cilantro, people. Wash the cilantro. The last thing you want to do is have mud or dirt from the cilantro in your mouth while you're eating. Get all that grit in there. So
Sand can get stuck in the cilantro.
yes, you can get stuck with cilantro. So
Fish
all right,
is in the house.
fish. Check it out, just for you, baby, just for you.
Look, 1 week. Look at how fast his hair grows, Vish. What
Just
are we
for
going to
you.
do?
All right, so here's what I'm doing. Good people of Instagram, I'm cutting the stems off and discarding this. No, just kidding. We're gonna put that aside, but I'm gonna throw the stems in there. And I like the cilantro flavor that I get from stems in my cuisine. Because these things are gonna melt right down.
So you're chopping those to add to this.
I'm chopping those up to add to the onions right now, to add extra dhania flavor to the whole dish, kind of building that foundation like a mirepoix we talked about, but instead of celery, I'm getting that same effect that celery will give to a dish from these stems. So they don't have to be super fine chopped. They're going into the oil, they're frying. They're gonna add beautiful flavor. Right? And I also have some green chilies chopped up, as little as much as you want. Let's go about that.
How much was that?
That's about a tablespoon of green chilies.
Was that like a half of a thing? It was finely chopped.
Finely chopped, finely chopped. Take the seeds out if you can, and put that in. Again, optional. If you don't like the heat and you don't want it, you don't have to put the green chili in there. The reason I like putting green chilies in this and not red chilies, and there's red chili powder coming later. We got some beautiful Kashmiri chili powder. It's because a good green chili, whether it's a Thai green chili or or even a Serrano in this case, adds flavor, not just heat. And green chilies have their own flavor. I mean, they're
We have another question about this beautiful pan.
Yes.
Straub pan. Look at that.
Yes.
That's the brand for whoever asked. It's
Yeah, Staub. And
Staub.
there's the lid for this particular pan. They're just beautiful. I mean, I'm not a shill for any company, but I'm gladly, whether people pay me or not, talk about things that I love. And I love Staub. It's a phenomenal pan. Lodge is another fantastic domestic substitute for Staub. If you don't quite have the budget for a Staub pan, Lodge pan, and I got plenty of those up there. You can see my collection of Lodge and Staub. Those are some of my favorite pans.
We love those pans.
And I'm cooking this in a cast iron pan because I like cooking cast iron. But growing up in India, we had karais, which were sort of this heavy, again, sort of metal, steel, iron bowls that we cooked a lot in. These remind me a lot of that. But of course, if you got a normal pan, non-stick, stainless steel, copper bottomed, whatever you got, cook away, get your keema on. Don't worry about the pan. All right, so this is getting that color I'm looking for. I'm not sweating them, I'm browning them. And we're right now at the stage where this can go very quickly from browning. That's Rosie! From browning to burnt. Hey, cut it out, girl. And we gotta keep a close eye on that part. So that's why I'm stirring continuously to make sure that the onions are cooking and not burning in any particular place. God, I wish you guys could smell this.
It's amazing.
It looks beautiful, smells beautiful. We got a money dish happening here, people. Money dish. Okay, now, we're within minutes of masala time. If I was not on Instagram TV time, I'd probably take this 20% further, like give it another minute or two to really get that browning going. But it's not gonna affect the flavor dramatically if I went ahead and put the masalas in at this point. And what I mean by the masala now is my powdered masala. So, we had a whole cumin seed. Yes, I'm gonna add cumin powder.
Charlotte is coming over because she wants to smell the smell.
Charlotte, you missed yet.
We have leftovers. Whoever's
We'll have
hungry.
Lots of leftovers. So now I'm moving to a teaspoon. Good people, there will be an Instagram a recipe posted on Spicewalla.com. Just go to the recipe page.
Spicewallabrand.com.
Spicewallabrand.com or Spicewalla.com. So we're gonna put. Oh wait. Sorry.
Hold the phone.
Hold it. Before my cumin, I want to put my turmeric in. And you go, Meherwan, what difference does it make? You're putting powders in. Why does one have to go before the other?
Look at that turmeric.
I know, this is diaspora turmeric. Hey, Sana, if you're out there, giving you a little shout out, diaspora turmeric. Why that? Turmeric adds, it blooms in oil. And I want to kind of get in there and have it bloom and flavor everything before all these other flavors get in there and start competing with my turmeric. Call me crazy, I believe in the order in which spices go and actually make a difference to the dish. Oh, that's a little too heavy. We don't want to go that heavy. I'm thinking about it.
Somebody was commenting on the turmeric stained white spatula, so this is why.
Yeah.
Particularly this turmeric. It's
All right.
amazing.
There, now you can smell that turmeric instantly blooming. It's coloring everything, it's flavoring everything, and that's why I put it in first, because I wanted to experience that incredible aroma of a high quality turmeric hitting oil and sizzling everything with that. You know, I might go just a wee bit more, give it a little bit of flavor. Okay, turmeric, boom, in. Give it a second, and the color is coming beautifully. And now, let's give it the cumin powder.
Is that a teaspoon?
That's a teaspoon. Let's give it the chili powder. And maybe a half a teaspoon, because if you don't want it too hot, there we go. Boom.
He always
And
squeezes
let's
in a
give
little
it
bit more there in
and
the
let's
end.
give it some coriander powder. This is a Indianish collaboration coriander powder. So the coriander's actually been roasted. Oh my God. I mean, look at the quality of that grind. It's not like talcum powder. We do a rough grind at Spicewalla because I like being able to pinch my spices the way I do kosher salt and feel the granularity in my fingers.
Here's the, for those of you
That's
that
the
were
most Indian
asking
thing I've
about
said all day.
that. Great, wait, say it again?
Granularity.
Granularity.
Very important when
Yes,
cooking.
the recipe will be posted, Spicewalla, on the website, honey?
On the spicewalla.com, yes.
Okay.
Go to the recipe section. Keema recipe will be on there. Okay, this now, folks, is what I'm talking about, a masala. It's not burnt, it's beautifully browned, it's flavored, you can smell the spices coming off of it, and this is ready to receive whatever we want to add flavor to. And in this case, lamb poo. We're adding flavor to lamb. It's not only, they're not only cute, they're also delicious.
Oh, the recipe's already there. Look at that.
Look at that.
Thanks, Elise.
So, don't put a big chunk of lamb in there. We want to put little bits of lamb in here. And I'm going to turn this guy back up again because we want the lamb to brown. So first, get the lamb out of the fridge and leave it sitting out at room temperature for at least 30 minutes or so that it comes to room temp. And guys, I know you're thinking to yourself, like, is this step really important? Yes, it is. You want the lamb to really sear and brown and not boil. And breaking it up in small chunks like this will help that browning effect happen a little bit. Let's put this in the sink. Quick hand wash. Turn the heat up. Break it up. And if you can hear that sizzling, that's what you want. If it was, and this is just about the perfect amount. Any more lamb in there, and I'd go from searing the lamb to kind of boiling the lamb because a lot of liquid would get released and the lamb would just start just cooking its juices. Not that that's a bad thing for other kinds of cuisine, but for right now, we're trying to brown the lamb. See what that's what I'm talking about. How the lamb is browned on the other side. I'm literally going to flip it over and get the other side of it also browning. Think chicken nuggets almost, right? So we got little lamb nuggets here. And we're adding magical flavor to our lamb nuggets.
You've got this on high?
Yes, I got this on high. And because I put the lamb in, the lamb is obviously cold coming into the pan. I mean, not refrigerator cold, but still. So it's retarding the cooking of the other things. I'm not too worried about the rest of it burning because the lamb at this point is in there doing this thing. Oh my God, I love the smell of lamb sizzling and searing. All right, now we're gonna keep breaking it up and keep getting that nice browning happening. And this is that color we're looking for. We don't want boiled lamb, we want seared lamb. And that'll give that beautiful mouthfeel of the lamb when you're eating it, where you're still getting the glossiness of the meat, the unctuousness of the lamb, without it just tasting like, you know, hamburger meat. That's been sort of... Now the lamb's releasing a lot of oil. That's all good, people. It's flavor. You can strain the oil off if you want, if it's too much when the meal is done. But once we're done with our tomatoes and our yogurt in here, which are the next steps, you'll find that it won't seem as oily as it looks right now. Okay, so we have accomplished a very critical step in making good keema, beautifully browned lamb. Boom. What's the next step, you ask? All right, so this is a little trick. Yogurt. Many cultures have a tradition or recipes that involve meat, especially gamey meats like lamb in particular, being cooked with yogurt, even beef. I mean, think of a bolognese with dairy in it. And dairy and meat goes well together, especially if it's this kind of dairy, yogurt, which has got a lot of active cultures in it, because what it does is it cuts the richness and the fattiness of the meat and also brings the gaminess of the meat down. Think about it. Once upon a time, our ancestors, without refrigeration, would slaughter meat, eat what they could, and then there was all the bits that often were either gamey or sort of awfully, or weird texture, or starting to turn because, you know, it's been sitting around for a while, a couple of days have gone by, and the meat's starting to go. Well, what do you do with it? Well, what about if you ground it up, which resolves your texture issue, added lots of spices to it, and added some sort of acidity to it, or any kind of a dairy to it, in order to cut the gaminess and help sort of, you know, that'll happen. And in my mind, I'm pretty sure that that's how so many of the dishes end up with dairy in them, and probably why sausage and chili usually are spiced heavily and cooked the living daylights out of it. It's to get rid of that either funk or gaminess from the meat, especially back in the day. Think buffalo chili, think venison chili, think keema, think lamb here. So we still put the yogurt in here, not because we're worried about the gaminess of the meat, but because it adds a beautiful glossiness and texture to the meat. And you can see that coming in. I'm going to put a little bit more.
So if you were making this with ground chicken, would you still use the yogurt?
Yes, I would, because it really adds what the chicken in that case would be missing. It would add a lot of fat, and I'm using whole fat, you know, 10% whole fat yogurt over here. It add fat and juiciness back to the chicken, so that it wouldn't be too dry.
Just as a refresher for those of you who missed it, he's making Kheema Pav, which at Chai Pani is known as the sloppy jai.
But I'm just doing the keema part, not the pav part.
The pav is the sandwich bread
Because grocery stores right now are a little light on product, and I really don't want to go spend half my day hunting down a pair of buns. But we can still enjoy this dish beautifully with a lot of other things. All right, the yogurts, and you can see the glossiness of the lamb has changed, the texture of the lamb has changed, and we're going to go with the last step right now, which is the tomatoes.
Crushed tomatoes.
Crushed tomatoes. Let's get those in. See how that looks.
Someone's asking if you put potato or peas in your keema.
Yep, I know that it's quite often traditional to have peas and potatoes in the keema. I'm pretty sure the Parsis never did that because, you know, as far as we're concerned, vegetables belong in the field, not on the plate. Every good Parsi is a carnivore. So I think the peas and the potatoes came along as the dish evolved in India, and other stuff got added to it. I grew up eating Parsi-style keema without the peas and the potatoes in it, but I've had plenty of keema, more on the dry side, that does have
Dry meaning less saucy?
less saucy, exactly. So sort of a less saucy, more dry keema I've had with potatoes and or peas. I just like them. I think the peas get gray and kind of mushy in them, and the potatoes just get in the way, you know. I mean,
It's an interruption.
You get interruption. We put the potatoes on the side. But both of those are fine. Both of those are excellent additions to the keema if you wanted to add a little bit more body texture and so on and so forth. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more of the tomatoes in here.
So how much did you put in of those crushed tomatoes, if you had to guess?
I put in about a cup and a half. And
Now you're just adding the tomato sauce.
I'm just adding a little bit more tomato sauce. And the tomato sauce here is what gives that tanginess to the dish. All right, you can add a little salt. We've only salted very lightly up to this point. And we're gonna cook this thing until the tomatoes really become glossy and reduce, and the dish becomes a little less saucy and a little more thick.
So would the taste change if you added tomatoes earlier in the process,
Yes.
before the meat?
Yeah, because we want to roast the meat. And we wanted to sear the meat, right, in the pan first before we add. If I put the tomatoes in first and then dump the meat in, the meat would have just boiled in the tomatoes. This is one of the few times where we actually brown the meat and sear the meat first before we add liquid. There's plenty of Indian cuisine in which you start with the curry first, for example, you know, the tomatoes and the masala and all that, and then add paneer, potatoes, vegetables, you know, chicken, whatever have you. I like searing my meats first as it is. So even if I was adding chicken to a curry, I'd go ahead and sear the chicken off separately and then combine it. But this dish in particular, you want to sear the meat first, and that's where you're really building flavor.
And the
lamb.
yogurt was whole milk yogurt, for someone's asking.
If you have non-fat yogurt, it's okay. It's more about the dairy and the acid in the yogurt and what it does to the meat than the fact that it's whole fat or not. If you were cooking with chicken or turkey, which is going to be really dry, then a whole fat yogurt would actually add back a little bit of that fat. But we were cooking with lamb, and this already has a ton of fat going, so I could use non-fat. This is just what I happen to have around the house. I mean, if you know, I mean, as Molly can testify, I'm not a recipe cook, as in following instructions perfectly. I'm a figure it out cook as you go. These dishes have been interpreted and reinterpreted and reinterpreted for centuries in India. Everybody that's made this dish has added something or taken something away depending on the circumstances. So there's no real version of an authentic anything in India. There's just variations of a dish, and each person that cooks it their way, in their mind, it's authentic to them and their family and what they grew up with. So I kind of really got that from my mom, and in terms of like, don't worry about whether it's supposed to be this way or that way. Just cook with what you have, and keep the intent of the dish intact. And it really doesn't matter. I mean, we could have made this dish with, God forbid, tofu. Or, you know, or a Beyond Burger meat or something. And it could probably come up with a passable keema because we're keeping the intent of the dish. Cooking this around and bend and down. So at this phase, there's two little tricks that I like to do. Again, these are Parsi tricks. And we like to add a little bit of sweetness and a little bit more acidity to the dish. And again, this is something that I believe the Parsis, who are Persians, bought with them from Persia, was this predisposition for liking things to be slightly sweet, slightly tart, slightly acidic. And normally I put jaggery in this for that sweetness, which is an unrefined Indian sugar straight from sugarcane. It's sugarcane juice that's been reduced to a block. But since we don't have that, I'm just going to use some regular cane sugar.
While you're doing that, I'm grabbing our battery pack.
There we go. Just a touch, just a touch.
What's a touch?
A touch would be a half a teaspoon, and then taste. You know, taste. The sugar will incorporate very quickly. And the other little trick we're going to put in there at this point is, let's go to the old spice caddy, spice garage, is a splash of vinegar. I happen to have rice wine vinegar, which also has a little sweetness in it. If you don't have rice wine vinegar, just use plain white vinegar. If you don't have plain white vinegar, I mean, I'm sure even balsamic, if it was just a touch of it, would be okay. We don't usually put balsamic. We try to go with a clear vinegar, but it... Well, hey everybody. But you're gonna need to turn this thing on. All right. So again, just a touch. And I'm putting it now because I want the vinegar smell to cook out and just leave the flavor behind. So we put it in as we get close to the end. And
Yes, katamita, she's saying. Tart and sweet.
Who's this?
Who's this? Live deliciously.
Perfect, love it. Everything in India, we love that khatta meetha. And that chatpata flavor. And the chatpata flavor, I don't know how to describe it, but it's the kind of flavor that whatever it is when you put it in your mouth, makes you want to go. You know who's got chatpata flavor? Rodney Scott in his barbecue sauce. I asked him once, I'm like, Rodney, what's the recipe? Is it written down? He says, no, it's not written down. I'm like, well, so how do you know if it's done right? You know, if somebody else is making it. He says, I tasted, and if it makes you go, then it's done perfectly. And to me, that's that Indian chatpata flavor that we like. We love it in our chaat, we love it in chaat masala, and it's a little bit of that khatta meetha, which is sweet and sour. There's also a little bit of funk sometimes in our chatpata.
Someone has a good question.
Yeah.
So we're all making do with what we have in our refrigerators. Could some kind of citrus, like maybe a lime, work instead of the vinegar?
Absolutely. Lime juice would work just well. You know, if you have lemon juice, if orange juice, it's fine. You're adding acidity and sweetness to the dish. It's a nice to do, not a have to do. It's just something the way the Parsis made it. I like it. I think it. Well, all right, guys, we're pretty close to being done. I could let this sit with the lid on it for a while and let it cook more. The longer this cooks, the better it's going to get. It's lamb. You can't overcook this particular lamb, this ground lamb. You know, well, you might, but for the most part, you don't have to worry about, oh, am I cooking it too long? You're not roasting in the oven. You're not trying to get to a certain temperature. You just want to make sure that it's unctuous and broken down and delicious and rich. And the longer you let it sit here and let the juices evaporate, the richer it's going to get and the more delicious it's going to be. So this would normally take about another, 7, 8, 9 minutes or so for the rest of this water to evaporate and for it to get thick and glossy. But I think it's at the stage where if you were hungry and just wanted to get your keema on, you could go for it. Well, we've been about 30 minutes into this. I try to keep these things at 30 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and serve this up. Let me try a little bit first to make sure I have my little spoon that I have put around somewhere.
So for those of you who are asking, this is Kheema Pav.
Well, it's keema,
Without the Pav.
keema.
I know, I'm getting there. Keema. And Kheema Pav would have the bun,
Right.
but we didn't have any buns, so he's just making the keema part, and that's called the sloppy jai at Chai Pani.
A little more seasoning. And what I mean by that is salt. And just a little bit more sugar. There's where my spoon went. Probably about another half a tablespoon. Get that in there. Taste as you go, taste as you go. You can always fix it as you're cooking. It's very hard to fix it once it's plated up on the table.
So you would keep cooking this for another 5 minutes or so to get some more of the juices?
I'd get some more of the juices on 5, 6, 7 minutes more. Maybe just a little splash more of the vinegar. And now, let's get ready to pick this up while it's bubbling away. Sorry guys. Here's one last thing. Garam masala. I was wondering, what's it missing? What's it missing? Forgot the garam masala, which we didn't forget it, means it's the perfect time to put it in. Garam masala is a finishing masala. It's a finishing spice blend in India. The cinnamon, clove, star anise, black pepper, these are all spices that you can enjoy steeped. You could even enjoy raw, like cinnamon powder dusted on a cake or something. So they don't need to cook necessarily. There's Rosie.
Very interested in what these
Everything
smells
in
are.
here, the fennel, the black pepper, these are all spices that don't need to be cooked to enjoy them. Unlike, for example, cumin seed, right? So instead of using it as a cooking medium to give flavor, use it as a finishing medium, almost like a finishing salt. So we're going to take a nice healthy pinch of garam masala and finish the dish with that. Get a little bit more out. And that's going to add that wonderful aromatics at the end. So we start it with those aromatics in the beginning, and we're going to finish with the aromatics powdered at the end. And there's that last smell. I was like, what's it missing? What's it missing? And boom, there it is. And you can smell it now as it hits the oil and the lamb. All right, let's plate up. Let's get a
Rosie really wants some of this dish.
East Fork Pottery, holler.
So for everybody who asked that missed it, it is on the website. The recipe is on the website, spicewalla.com. It's also, I think, on the Spicewalla page.
Yeah.
Instagram page.
Yep.
The link is there.
It'll be there. Let's get a little rice.
So since you don't have a bun, you're putting the keema over rice.
Over rice, yeah. Just over some rice. This is just some, whatever I had in the fridge. There's a little bit of sort of medium grain rice. Not getting too upset about whether it's perfectly cooked basmati or not. We're gonna be putting this beautiful hash over it. Look at that, look at it. See the oil is starting to pool outside, almost done. Gonna rough chop up some cilantro real quick.
Yes, Lauren. Hi, Lauren. This is the gluten-free option. So when somebody comes to Chai Pani and they want keema, gluten-free keema, they just put it over rice instead of on a bun.
Add the fresh cilantro leaves. You notice I put the stems in early, real early when I was cooking to flavor the dish from the bottom level up. And now this cilantro going up on top, it's like tearing that fresh basil into that pasta pomodoro and getting that beautiful basil scent that's really fresh and herbaceous happening right off the top. And guys, we are ready to serve this sucker up. Maybe one more little scoop of keema. Get this bad boy out here. Plate wipe. Done. One more little sprig.
Smells so good.
There she is. I'm gonna go ahead and take a little bite of this bad boy here. Oh, good God, that's good. All right, I'm really good. This is good. I can make good keema. I'm a good Parsi. I'm a good Parsi. I know how to make a good keema. Guys, I can't even. I love whole black peppercorn. I don't mind having cardamom pods in my mouth. I don't mind sucking on a cinnamon stick and getting the juices out of it, almost as if it was like a little drumstick. But if you don't like the spices, go through this, pick them out with a spoon, or if they end up in your meal, just eat around it. It's not going to kill you. I like the burst of flavor in my mouth. And you can have this dish with a slice of bread. You can have this dish over rice. You can have this dish over, you know, a grain of choice, quinoa, whatever have you. You can have it like a sandwich between a little Hawaiian roll with just like a sloppy joe, and that's why it's so famous in Chai Pani. The sweet yogurt that I made on Sunday for the pakoras and the green chutney are great accompaniments to this if you're putting it on a bun. You can put a little bit of that sweet chutney almost like mayo, put the keema on top of the bun, drizzle a little bit of the green chutney, and you'll get some nice bright herbaceous acidity, and then eat that as a sandwich. You can eat this with eggs, fried eggs in the morning with a little warm keema on the side, or even scrambled eggs. I mean, this is a all-purpose, versatile, amazing dish. One pot, can be served anything. It freezes beautifully, and it'll get better, even better tomorrow as its flavors will develop in the fridge. And this thing will store comfortably in the fridge in an airtight Tupperware. Use glass, not plastic, because otherwise it'll stain. And you can get 3, 4, 5 days out of this meal. And if you freeze it, of course, you can freeze it for a month or so. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's Kheema Chawal instead of Kheema Pav. And any questions, hit me up. Hit me up on @meherwanirani.com or @Spicewalla or @Chai Pani or @Botiwalla. I'm all over the Instagrams. And one of these days I'll get a haircut. Nice.
One of these days.
Nice having you all join me. See you guys on Sunday. We're going to do something fun on Sunday too. Au revoir. Namaste. See you all later.
Bye, everybody.